I'm Susan. Welcome to Tea and Games. As promised, 2 videos ago, we will be speaking about games we have culled, but it's not all good news with that unplayed game shelf because we've been getting games as well as culling games. But first, tea. The tea today is Brodie's of Edinburgh's Scottish Breakfast. This is the strongest tea I've ever drunk. I had this years and years and years ago, and I stumbled onto more now. It is very, very strongly flavored. Not a flavored tea flavor. Oh man, it'll put hair on your chest. I personally am immune to this effect, but nevertheless, it is strong. A veritable beast of a tea. And too hot for me to drink right now, sadly. I'll set this aside and hopefully I won't knock it over during the course of the video. Yeah, I ran into some and just snatched it up because, wow, you don't run across a tea like that too often. Prior to trying this, I did not really understand that whole milk and sugar and just like all the stuff you could put into tea. And then I had this and I'm going like, oh my God, I need to dilute this with something. Hand me the sugar, hand me the milk. Yes, more please. Takes a little getting used to. Anyhow, we culled some games, or I should say I culled some games. Robert vetoed a couple of my choices, as he normally does. There's always 1 or 2 in there that he vetoes, and I just don't put them on the cull list anymore once he vetoes them, until he maybe brings it up. The games we got rid of, I've got like a still insert, if the program will allow me to put it in. But otherwise, I will read them off here on the list. The games we culled are games that we probably, at least some of them, we probably should not have bought in the first place. Firefly Clue. I saw this at our friendly local game store. It was a used game on consignment. It said Firefly, and I snatched it up. I have a Firefly problem. But I realized after a while that I really actually wasn't that interested in playing this version of Clue. Also, our primary player count is 2. We occasionally play at 3 or 5. Nobody I know of would be particularly interested in playing the Firefly version of Clue. The family might be, but we don't get together with them for game days as often as we used to, and there are other games that I would want to play with them more than that. So I just it had been sitting on the shelf for a year now, and I just said, yeah, it's time to pass it on to somebody else that might appreciate it. And I probably should not have bought it. It was an impulse purchase, and my impulse purchases do not work out so well sometimes, which is why I don't impulse buy stuff very often. Munchkin Shakespeare, Robert got that for me because it was Shakespeare. And I didn't want Munchkin Shakespeare, so it was just sitting on the shelf. It has been sitting on the shelf for years, actually. We do have another version of Munchkin, which is another reason why we just didn't. That's not one of those games where you need a whole bunch of different versions of. No, if you've got one, then you've pretty much got it covered. In fact, you might even make a good argument that having one version of Munchkin is too much. But certainly 2 would be too much. So Munchkin's Shakespeare Deluxe, I'm not sure what makes it deluxe, except that it's got a big box. Pandemic. Now, we got Pandemic during the pandemic, during lockdown. It was like in 1920. It was very thematic, and I'd heard really good things about the game. I heard about it when it first came out, even though I wasn't really into board games then, and I thought, do we really want to ever, who would play a game about something horrible like that? So, I mean, I didn't understand the appeal the first time I heard of it. And then after I started getting into board games and I learned more about the game, I understood the appeal and I had a certain curiosity about it since we were like in a pandemic lockdown. So we got it and we played it and we enjoyed it. We made one strategic miscalculation and that was pretty much it. I mean, it's a game that is very unforgiving. You're not really allowed to make mistakes. You have to make the correct decision pretty much every time. But we were doing really well up until that point. But I don't know. That was 1920 and or whenever it was we got it. I'm thinking it was actually during the first year of the pandemic. But we got it and we played it and we enjoyed it. We liked the system for that type of co-op game, and there are other games that uses the pandemic system. You might say the system is contagious. But I don't know, it's still remained on the shelf, and we pull other co-op games off the shelf and replay them, including some that have the same mechanic. But pandemic it just sits there. It's like I'm just like never ever in a mood to play a game about a pandemic, having lived through a pandemic. And I'm very grateful that I lived through the pandemic, but it's kind of like, yeah, thematically, it's too unpleasant. And it has too many associations with real life death and suffering. So yeah, it was time to move that one on. There are a lot of people who really like the game, and I'm sure it will find a good home. Coatl. I had heard good things about this, but didn't know that much about it. And we played a couple of games of it, and last year I think it was, and I don't know. It was okay. We didn't not like it. We kind of enjoyed it. It seemed like the cards did not cycle and turn over quite fast enough in order for us to get more options, but that could have been because we were playing two-player. But then again, two-player is our main player count. And I don't know. I was just expecting something that would wow me a bit more. The pieces are nice. I think this would be a good game maybe for kids because of the whole things to make and do thing, because you're actually like assembling a little plastic coatl. And it's very colorful. It's not difficult. So it can find another home with somebody else. And then there was Firefly Flux, which is another game Robert got for me because it was Firefly and he thought I would want Firefly Flux, but I already had a version of Flux that I love, which I've talked about before, the Monty Python Flux. I mean, if you're going to have one version of Flux, and if you like Monty Python, it should be that one. Because thematically, in terms of the way the game plays and the theme, it just kind of seems perfect. Like this is what Flux was always meant to be, would be Monty Python. So I didn't want a Firefly Flux. I didn't need a Firefly Flux. The Firefly Flux was, say that 3 times fast, and I think I actually did say it 3 times fast. The game, I'm gonna slip and say a bad word if I keep trying to say all those F words together. It's gonna come out badly one of these times. So I should just stop trying to say that. The card game, the little Flux card game, 1F, 2 X's though. It was still in shrink. So I mean, I didn't even crack the wrapper on that. And the other game we culled was Arboretum, which was, again, a game we got back in 2020, I think it was. And we played it and we kind of went, I don't know. It's like looking at it and we're like making this tableau thing. Arboretum is the game that convinced me that I do not like tableau building games. Although I think I have played some games that have kind of that card tableau aspect going on that seem to be okay. But I mean, it's not like we really, well, yeah, we did kind of dislike it. Yeah, it really was not a hit. And it was enough of a hit that I now have it in my mind that tableau building is a bad mechanic that I don't ever want to do again. It was that much of a miss in terms of hit or miss. So, and it's sat on the shelf ever since then. You know, after a couple of games of it, we're just kind of saying, yeah, right, let's play something else. It's like we were never ever going to say, hey, do you want to play Arboretum? So yeah, that was time for that one to go. So, I mean, the games we call, we're not making agonizing choices here, because some of these games are games that we got fairly early in our board game collection, and we were still figuring out what we liked and what we didn't like. And there were some games in there that Robert got for me that I didn't want him to get for me or anybody to get for me. And there were some games we didn't like. And see, we're still at the point where when we cull games from our collection, when we get rid of games, a lot of times there are games that we are never ever going to play, never ever going to play again because we didn't like them. So, I mean, if you look at your game collection, you're going, what are games that I'm never going to play again because I didn't like it? And games that I should have never bought in the first place because I'm never going to play them. See, kind of a theme here. You know, it's like, if you pull those from your collection, then you're culling pretty much the way we do. I do know people that make very, very difficult choices. I mean, they do get rid of good games. And at some point, our board game collection may be so ginormous, we will make those kind of choices too. But right now, our board game collection is not large. We are still sitting at around 100 games, a little over, especially because of this. See, we not only got rid of games, we also got games. Oh, but in the getting rid of category, before we move on, I should mention this past weekend we played the final episode scenario for MicroMacro Crime City, and we won. Yes, and that was on the hardest level, and it was a lot of fun. So yeah, it's kind of a hit or miss thing. There were a handful of them that we really did not enjoy, but most of the mysteries in the box, we really had a good time finding stuff. And I'm still not entirely sure why there were certain ones that we did not enjoy doing that seemed like it was a grind. Though I can tell you why specific scenarios we failed at. But overall, I mean, this was a Spiel des Jahres. Winter. My tongue's not working much. Obviously, I need more of this really strong tea. Award-winning game. Big, worldwide award-winning game. And I can see why. It is incredibly clever because you're not only moving through space as you trace things on the cityscape, you're moving through time. Moving, like following characters and events forward and also tracing them back, looking for clues. So it's very clever. It's very well done. I love the artwork. But I kind of think we're done with it. Not planning on looking up any free games off the website, scenarios off the website, not planning on getting any more. May revisit that decision in a few years. I might get the itch for a little MicroMacro, but it will be culled and go out the door in the next, whenever we sell off more games. And I mean, that was always going to be the plan because it has zero replayability. Because I mean, like, once you know who done it and why and where and all of that kind of stuff, there's no point in doing it again. I think somebody else will enjoy it a lot. And I'm fairly satisfied with the cull. But then we bought games. See, that whole moving games on from the collection, it also works this way because, like, other people get rid of games. On our friendly local game store, they did a thing this past weekend where they had a trading post day. And this is where vendors or individuals or whoever set up tables and they sell off used games for sometimes really good prices. I mean, yeah, if there was something that, if you saw something that you really wanted there, you should probably get it. So we looked around there, and I mean, I was kind of willing to just kind of say, yeah, that, maybe that, and walk off. But Robert, my darling husband, he latched on to Star Trek Catan, sorry. I got started saying it wrong because the first time I saw it, for actually many of the first times I saw it, was always in print. So it was a very long time before I actually heard somebody say it, because I wasn't watching videos or anything. He found this. This was on, Catan was our entry-level game. Not this version, but the regular version with the family. And he saw this. I don't even remember seeing it because there were just so many games on those tables, but I did kind of look, and I chatted with some of the vendors about some of the stuff they had that I had played about, you know, good games and stuff, and was able to actually give a vendor some information about an expansion he was selling that he didn't actually know about, you know, that much about the expansion he had on his table. And I hope that helped him, you know, sell it to somebody who would enjoy it. But Robert latched on to this. And so it's like I've already wandered into the other part of the store and everything, and he comes up and he goes, Star Trek Catan. And I go back and I'm looking at him, he's going like, it's $25. He's working over his, it's $25. And I'm going like, yeah, that is a good price. Are all the pieces there? And he goes, yeah. I mean, it looks like it. The vendor says all the pieces are there. And I'm going like, skeptical, very highly skeptical, because this is rare and out of print. And even when it wasn't rare and out of print, you didn't buy it for $25. It was a lot more than that. So it's like, I don't know. And he's going like, and this was on my wish list until I realized it was like rare and out of print. And then I thought, yeah, I've got Catan. I've got like an expansion for Catan and the 5 to 6 player extension. And it's like, I'm not going to pay like a premium collector price just so I can have something that's Star Trek branded. But then he comes up with this, and I'm going like, yeah, okay. And I mean, the family will really love this because they play Catan and they're big Star Trek fans like we are. So, and they are aware that there is a Star Trek Catan, but like us, it wasn't on their list because, you know, out of print, super expensive. $25. I brought it home, I unpacked it, I counted all the pieces, separated everything out, inventoried every single thing, and every single thing is in the box. Every little bit, including every little teeny tiny little plastic translucent base for all the standees. So yeah, this was a steal. I'm very happy that we got it. And I am looking forward to playing it. Not sure when though. It depends upon when we can corral the family for a big family game day, because when we play Catan, it kind of takes up a huge chunk of the day, so that's kind of a thing. So it kind of depends upon whether this will be a long hangout with the family or a short hangout with the family. The other thing is I mentioned that they had Forbidden Desert on one of the dealers' things, and I didn't even note the price. I just noticed it was Forbidden Desert. This is the second in a series of co-op games. And Forbidden Island is the first one. It is, I should say, an excellent entry-level co-op game. Excellent entry-level co-op game. Very, very easy to learn. I highly recommend Forbidden Island. We were shocked. It is one of the few co-op games that we won the first time we played it. And we have a pretty good win ratio with it, though we haven't played it in so long. I haven't actually logged any wins in board game stats because I haven't played it this year. And we may be very rusty. We played a game this weekend that we were very rusty on. But anyhow, this is the next game. And it was on my list for a while. But, you know, it's like, well, we're not playing Forbidden Island all that much anymore. And I just kind of like sort of forgot about it just dropped off the list. It just kept going further and further down my wish list as other new shiny things came up. And I just kind of forgot about it. And Robert came back and he says, they're only asking $5 for it. He says, if you ever wanted to have this game. I said, well, I mean, before he said $5, I thought, well, I mean, it's not that expensive of a game to begin with. We could get it some other time. It's like, I'm just not that hot to get it right now. And he's going like, it's $5. $5. He's going like, if you ever wanted to get the game and play it, you're never going to find it cheaper than that. I mean, like, unless somebody just walks up to you and hands you a copy. So, I mean, this was a good deal. Brought it home, opened the box, inventoried all the things. All the pieces are there. So, excellent trading post day at our friendly local game store. And then, this weekend, besides that, the family just got back from a family vacation at Universal in Florida, and they brought us back stuff, including, they usually get t-shirts, but because we're into board games and they're into board games, they brought us Golden Snitch Snatcher, the Quidditch game. This is a 2-player game, and that's perfectly in our wheelhouse. We play 2-player games. That's the player count that we have the most often. But I don't know anything about it. So this is going to be really interesting. I've done unlike other games in which I've done some research on, I don't know anything about this. But I opened it up and whoa, looked at it, looked at the contents. Everything is here. It's got a big board. The board seems unusually shiny to me. So we may get weird camera reflections on the board. And 2 decks of cards. It's Gryffindor versus Slytherin. Some miscellaneous game pieces which go on the board, and 1 die. And then you have to assemble these little towers. Even though it's Gryffindor versus Slytherin, they have all 4 Quidditch towers. You can see the little things. And this is all one piece. It's not a multi-piece assembly. You punch out one big thing and then you just fold, 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 tuck a tab in here, tuck a tab in there. And the back side of this here has like some self-stick tape that stickies it to there, and this backside here flat has some self-stick tape that stickies it there. I don't know how long these things will hold together before the tape gives way, but it's just like a piece of self-stick, double-sided sticky tape, so that could be fixed easily enough if it does not stand the wear and tear of play, although I'm not sure how much wear and tear you would actually get on these. Hufflepuff and Ravenclaw actually look kind of neat, and the box has a really good insert where you can put the things all together here. These are the game pieces in a paper bag, and here are the 2 decks of cards. So I'll need to research that and see how it is played. It's got a not terribly thick, a very, very thin rules book here with lots of pictures, so it shouldn't be too hard. I don't think it says not for children under 3, so I don't know. I kind of feel like that a game based upon young adult novels, maybe it's probably not going to be a heavy Euro. It's going to be light. It's going to be easy kiddie game kind of thing here. So, that is what we got in. I think our unplayed game shelf is up to 19. It got knocked back with those games we culled. And then we bought a couple of games at the trading day. Scoot this back so you can see the Star Trek part. And then we were given the Golden Snitch. So yeah, we got, it's like, 1, 2, 3, 6 games out and 3 games in. And we still, this past weekend, we played no games we hadn't played before. We played an old favorite. We played Ex Libris, which I'll talk about in the next video, I think. Anyhow, games in, games out. It's been fun talking to you around the table. If you have had any experience playing any of the games I culled, if you want to leave a comment for any other people that might be reading comments, if you want to talk about if you played the snitch game, there may be more than one. It's this one. If you played it, let me know what you think, because I know zero about it. I haven't even started looking into it yet, other than to put the pieces together. If you played Forbidden Desert, you could tell me maybe how it compares to Forbidden Island. Star Trek Catan, you got any thoughts on that, particularly just how it compares to regular Catan? It's got a lot of pieces. But yeah, games in and games out, and that's, we did play some games this weekend. Like I said, we only played a couple of games though, just a couple of games of Ex Libris, and I'll talk about that in the next video. We're trying to get Flamecraft to the table, but it's just not quite happening. Hopefully this next weekend. Got a long Memorial Day weekend here in the U.S. But it's been good talking to you around the table and drinking my very, 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 very strong tea. And I'll see you next time around the table. Bye.